I'm Charles Fleming, editor of the Los Angeles Times Company Town, and I'm here with Daniel Miller today to talk about an unusual situation, the movie Kick-Ass 2, which started out as one movie from one studio and has wound up with another movie from another studio. First of all, what is Kick-Ass and what's going on?
So Kick-Ass is a superhero movie. It was released in 2010 by Lionsgate domestically, and it did quite well. It grossed $101 million worldwide, had an interesting tone. It was quirky. It featured young children who basically were vigilantes. They dressed up as superheroes, had foul mouths, and got into trouble. And it was a fun movie, and there was definitely interest in making a sequel.
And if I remember correctly, it also did pretty well in the home entertainment division, right? It sold a lot of DVDs. That's
right. Kick-Ass had a nice run on home entertainment platforms. It sold plenty of DVDs. Blu-rays as well, and perhaps most interestingly, it was heavily pirated. A list from a couple years back cited it as the 7th most pirated film of all time. So it did well on legitimate home entertainment platforms, but also on illegal ones. So there was a lot of interest in this movie.
It so suggests there's an audience for this, and that sounds like the beginning of a franchise, and you'd assume that Lionsgate, if there was going to be a sequel, would step up immediately and say, we want to, at least for the domestic side, we want to distribute that.
That's right. There was an expectation, at least from the filmmakers of Kick-Ass, that Lionsgate would exercise its right to distribute the film domestically, that is the sequel. So they were quite surprised when Lionsgate passed on its opportunity to distribute Kick-Ass 2 domestically. Lucky for the filmmakers, they had an interested party in Universal Pictures. Universal had handled foreign distribution of the first movie, so they were already familiar with it and were very interested.
Now, why would Lionsgate pass on something like that? They weren't asked to pay for the movie, right? That they were just going to distribute. I believe the movie was financed by the creators, correct?
That's right. The creators of the movie financed Kick-Ass 2. That's the model they used for the original film. Both movies cost about $28 million. Lionsgate did not comment for our story, but according to somebody who has knowledge of the situation, Lionsgate, at the time of discussions over whether to distribute Kick-Ass 2, Lionsgate was working through its acquisition of Summit Entertainment, a large production company. Lionsgate's pipeline of movies effectively doubled, and they were basically sorting through all of those films.
So what's the plan now? Universal will be releasing the movie this week. They have domestic and international?
That's right. Universal has domestic and international distribution. According to those who have seen pre-release surveys, the movie could take in about $20 million domestically. That's in line with the original film's opening weekend of $19.8 million. A gross of $20 million would put the film on a path to profitability.
Yeah, almost covering its negative cost in its first weekend. Now, there's also, if I remember correctly, there's a little bit of a scandal attached to this movie because one of its stars, not in the original but in the sequel, has spoken out against the movie. Is that correct?
That's right. Jim Carrey is one of the stars of Kick-Ass 2. He plays Colonel Stars and Stripes. And Carrey took to Twitter earlier this year to disavow the film. He said that in the wake of the Sandy Hook shooting, he wasn't comfortable with the level of violence in Kick-Ass 2. And he caught the filmmakers off guard. They were not aware that he felt this way, and since then he has not promoted the film.
But on some level, I assume that the kerfuffle that followed that might be good advertising for the film. Are the filmmakers dismayed by Jim Carrey stepping away and not supporting them?
You know, I think they have mixed feelings. Matthew Vaughn, who produced Kick-Ass 2 and had directed the first movie, said that he was very surprised by Carrey's stance and would have preferred that Carrey came to him first to discuss it. On the other hand, Mark Millar, who is the creator of the Kick-Ass comic book on which the films are based, said that Carrey's comments produce a ton of publicity, and perhaps the sort of publicity that a small movie like this couldn't buy.
Yeah. Well, you'd like to have him on the talk shows and stuff. Well, what I'm guessing is with that kind of action in home entertainment and so successful the first one, the second one expected to open big, this obviously sets the table for Kick-Ass 3. Universal must have some idea about that, right?
You know, there is a possibility for another film if Kick-Ass 2 performs well, and Universal has said that. There is a third series in the comic book, Kick-Ass 3, which actually came out earlier this year. And Mark Millar, is working on finishing that series, but there's definitely more material.
Terrific. Well, For more on this, if you're interested in getting more details with Daniel's amazing story about Kick-Ass 2, look at your online browser and go to Los Angeles Times Company Town.